Today we're going to be talking about a study that looks at the effects of different types of brain training on the risk of developing dementia. To help explain the study, we're excited to welcome one of the study authors, Dr. Jeri Edwards, out of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neurosciences, University of South Florida. So to start, I'll explain a little bit about the study, and then I'll invite Dr. Edwards to help us understand what they found. The authors hypothesized that cognitive training, so activities that essentially exercise your brain, would help to lower your risk of developing dementia. They further hypothesized that this effect, lower risk of developing dementia with cognitive training, would be even stronger with more cognitive training. This particular study took place over 10 years. All participants were age 65 or older, and at the beginning of the study, no participants had dementia. Participants were randomized or divided into 4 groups. One group received no training, another group received memory training, a third group participated in reasoning training, and the fourth group in speed training. Once training was complete, a series of assessments was used to measure the cognition or thinking and reasoning ability of the participants. These measurements were actually given 6 different times, right after brain training, and then 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 years later. Can you tell us a little bit about what training looked like?
So the training is a computerized program that flashes different objects very quickly that you have to identify and also localize. And then sometimes it also includes distractors. And it's very brief.
Okay, so then once the training was completed, a series of assessments were provided to participants. With these assessments, they were able to compare how many participants in each group ended up with dementia or changes in their cognitive, so thinking ability. Can you tell us a little bit about what you found?
Yes. So there were 3 different training groups. There was the computerized speed of processing training, which is also called UFOB training. There was memory training, which is mnemonic training, learning how to remember lists and of information. And there was also reasoning training, which involved recognizing patterns and in order to solve problems. And these 3 groups were all compared to a control group. And what we found is that individuals who were randomized to the computerized speed of processing training program were 29% less likely to show signs of dementia 10 years later. And those who did more training were up to 48% less likely to show signs of dementia 10 years later.
So the more training you did, the less likely you were to show signs of dementia later on.
But only for the computerized speed of processing training, or also called UFOB training program.
Perfect. So that actually brings me to my next question. Why do you think that speed of training was most effective? Because when we think of dementia, a lot of us think about things like memory and reasoning. These seem more relevant. So do you have any hypotheses as to why it was actually speed training that was found most impactful?
Yes. I have 3 reasons I think it was found most impactful. One is a theory called the information degradation theory, and that is with age, our ability to take in information becomes degraded because our sensory processing becomes degraded, and that affects our perceptual processing, and that then affects our higher order cognitive abilities. And so by targeting these very basic visual processing abilities, we're facilitating changes at higher levels of cognition. So that's a theory, and there are increasingly lots of studies and evidence showing that there's very strong associations between sensory motor processing and cognition, and that people with poor sensory motor processing abilities are at higher risk for Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. So that is one theory. I also think it's because speed of processing is a cognitive ability that declines very early and declines pretty ubiquitously across individuals. So speed of processing starts to decline as early as 25 years of age. And so in this study, when we're looking at people who are 65 or older, they had all probably already experienced some speed of processing decline, and maybe even some substantial speed of processing decline, because this particular cognitive ability declines the earliest. And then the third reason is we have found in more than 8 studies now that this training improves everyday functional performance. So dementia diagnosis actually happens when you have impaired functional performance. And so we know that the training is improving older adults' everyday functional performance. So then by doing that, it could be delaying the onset of dementia.
You and your co-authors noted in your paper that, quote, to our knowledge, this is the first study to show that any intervention, behavioral or pharmacological, can lower risk of dementia. That's a pretty powerful statement about this specific type of cognitive training. So can you talk a little bit about what that statement means to you?
Yes, so it was the first randomized trial. There have been other correlational studies to find some things are associated with lower dementia risk long-term. It was very exciting to find that the training improves older adults' future at being functional longer, staying independent longer, and reducing dementia. We have a desperate need to find out how to intervene to reduce dementia such as Alzheimer's disease as a public health crisis at this time. And it's just been very rewarding to see how older adults benefit from the training. When I started doing this work more than 25 years ago, I was a trainer in which I helped older adults navigate through the training program, and I saw how it improved their abilities and made them faster. And then in our subsequent work, we found that it improved their instrumental activities of daily living, including driving, and that older adults did the training were safer drivers and we're driving longer. And so it's just very exciting that we have an intervention that can make a difference in people's lives.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Just in closing, do you have any thoughts or take-home ideas to share? I, like many people, have dementia in my family. I have a grandparent with dementia. Are there any things that people like myself or my parents can be thinking about now in ways that we can hopefully reduce our own risk of developing dementia based on this study?
Yes, for sure. There are lots of things that we can do to affect our dementia risk. Lots of things you do change your brain, and the things that we can do are to follow a healthy diet such as the Mediterranean diet. Also, exercise. Physical exercise is very important for our health and our brain health. Also, we need to think about maintaining our vision and our hearing, back to that point that I talked about earlier about the information degradation theory and the strong associations between sensory decline and dementia. And then I think people should start incorporating effective evidence-based brain training programs in their healthy routines as early as 50 years of age. Definitely by 55. Absolutely positively by 60.
Thank you for joining us for a few minutes today to learn a little bit more about the science that's out there on technology and aging.